Welcome to Outbound, where we talk about strategies and tactics to help you build deeper relationships with your ideal customers. On today's episode, I have Dee Acosta on with me. Dee, welcome to the show.
Hey, so glad to be here, Joseph. I am Director of Sales and Strategic Growth at Modigi. Recently, I was head of revenue at Hockeystack, and I was at Metadata, and then I was at Aberdeen for a long time. But yeah, been around. Excited for this.
Yeah, so Dee, what is the strategy or tactic that you've seen be most effective to help you build deep relationships with your customers?
Yeah. So in short, it's authenticity. You have to be yourself with your clients and confident with yourself. But longer, not too long, is really taking an all-bound mentality, is understanding what you need to do to create pipeline, to create meaningful conversations, and then, almost obsessing over that. So that includes, networking, the who knows who, and being able to do that. That includes social, right? Branding yourself, branding your outreach. That includes email. Still set plenty of meetings via email, and it includes cold calling. I still set plenty of meetings via cold calling, but it's really, it's almost a mindset, right? It's really, what am I going to do to get a meeting here? And I could go on and on about it. It's something that technology I don't think can help with, certainly, but it can't replicate. But that's really what it takes as an all-bound strategy. There's no right answer. There's no single answer. It's just a mentality more than anything.
So by all-bound, you mean taking different approaches to try to reach somebody. So if you have an account that you're going after, trying different things and taking different approaches until you find one that sticks and helps you book a meeting with the right person. Am I?
Yeah. Try every approach, right? Find somebody who knows them, call them, email them, research them. What's important to them? Do they have children? Do they have hobbies? Send a gift if necessary. But, at the end of the day, it's what's going to trigger that business and how can I get that? And some of that is also understanding, from their shoes. So, there's definitely, so I forget the stats, but like half all buyers are millennials or younger. But as you go, up the seniority chain, time, starts to switch, right? Time becomes more of the asset that is precious to them. And, you have to change your messaging to that. And then also, like, look, I'm 40. Some people grew up with the internet. So they're social first, they're, digital first, they're text first. And some folks, they did not. They still read a lot. They still read PDFs, and it's being able to, they still read their emails, they still listen to their voicemails, and it's being able to understand how they communicate and communicate on their terms. But it's really, I know a lot of people, right? I know most people in B2B SaaS, not most people, I know someone at most companies at B2B SaaS, and like, how did I get to know them? It was taking an all-bound strategy from my desk, meeting with them at events, leveraging relationships, and making a lot of calls, sending a lot of emails before through parallel dialers or sequencers or anything like that. But yeah, it's a mentality, and ABM tries to replicate it. You can't. There's no intent data as good as a rep. Sorry about that. There's no intent data as good as a rep staring at the same 100 or so accounts every day.
Something that sticks out for me from what you're saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm just trying to kind of dig in a little bit more into what you're talking about. So if you're trying to reach, it's really getting into the mind of that specific buyer, and that you're not going to get that just by taking one approach to try to reach them. In other words, you're probably going to need to build relationships with people that are around that person. And so if you talk to somebody on their team who's in operations, but ultimately the decision maker is the CEO, but you end up getting on a call from networking, you get an introduction to somebody who's their chief operating officer or something like that, then you're going to ask some questions and learn about what the CEO is looking for. And maybe they are somebody who's more relational, and sending them some kind of a gift will be the right introduction, or maybe that'll make them upset. And you can kind of learn that as you're talking with different people that are around them versus only building a relationship with the decision maker and then hoping that that's going to be enough.
Yeah. And a great way to kind of scale that is industry knowledge. So there's so many tools now to learn about companies. But if you can be a domain expert on their industry, that goes a long way, right? So there's certain challenges that companies have in industries. There's certain competition. There's the hot thing going on. You know, use security, for example. You know, ransomware was hot. You know, CrowdStrike was a hot company, and having a fundamental understanding of that also can let you scale that. So, hey, you know, want to talk, and then you can have an educated conversation that speaks to the decision maker's pains. And I'll also go back to the Challenger sale. Challenger sale is a good book. You know, most sales do not start with check signer. No sale starts with a check signer, right? Unless it's ransomware and they gotta, you know, have someone fix it. Yeah, it starts with, you know, the typically manager director, and you know, if you're talking to a team lead or you know just somebody that's been there a while and is interested, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what is bad is when you're doing things that get you, you know, calls with people who don't care, right, or can never buy, which sometimes happens. It's pretty rare, you know. Usually you're calling the right person, but yeah, and it's looking at, you know, who you know. So I'll just get into a story. So I'm going to jump a little bit to the story. So the biggest sale of my career, I knew someone who knew someone that worked at Intel, and they sat over McAfee because McAfee owned Intel, and we took him out to dinner. That was it. We took him out to dinner, and he then introduced us to the VP of marketing, and that leveraged a $500,000 deal. So, you know, I didn't do anything magical, but you know, leveraging that relationship, authenticity. I don't know why clients like me, but they like me. That helped get us there, and that was definitely an all-bound strategy. You know, that was not that was calling the IVR and all that stuff, and in addition to the meeting, you know, the relationship there.
Yeah, so it's really taking a well-rounded approach to, you know, what you just described is taking a well-rounded approach. You're not just going, how do I get a hold of the decision maker only? You're figuring out who knows who and how can I get in front of that person. Do I know somebody who knows them? Is there a way I can get a referral in? Because way more likely. And then buying dinner, you know, just going back to the classic. I mean, that's kind of how, especially in the consulting world, that's kind of how sales have always worked. Is you meet somebody in an event, you schmooze them, have them over, you know, you have them out to some fancy dinner, and then, you know, you end up building a rapport with them. They trust you. Because I think that's the big thing, that what you're describing is important. Like if you have an SDR team and auto dialers and they get a hold of somebody on the phone, and that's the only way that you're getting in, the likelihood that that person is going to trust anybody on your team is extremely low, unless there's been other interactions. You know, if they've seen you on in their social feed a bunch of times and they kind of know who you are and you cold call them, much better chance that you're going to end up having a level of trust with them. But like, you're starting from a place of distrust if you're only taking one element and people have no idea who you are, and you have to build that trust, and it's an uphill battle. Whereas if you have other ways of getting, and I'm not saying you shouldn't try that or try that approach, but if you have multiple irons in the fire going on at the same time, where maybe you're getting introduced, or you know, they see you on social and then you reach out through LinkedIn direct message, or you know, something that we do is have people on our shows that we want to build a relationship with, and you know, offer value by helping to promote them and what they're doing, and then that opens up doors to build relationships. So if you're taking these different pieces, then if that person already knows you exist, they're much more likely to trust you from the beginning of the conversation versus, you know, starting with that uphill battle.
Yeah, or they know your brand. That can help too. So, you know, I was just trading messages with my CEO, and you know, Dell and HP, like they have big outbound departments, right? And they do big deals too. Like let's not kid ourselves. They do really big deals. You know, EMC does owned by Dell, but they do, you know, multi-million-dollar annual contracts, and their brand is known, right? So, oh, I'm getting a call from Dell, and you know, IT firms are also notorious for, hey, you want to go to a Red Sox game? I'm in Boston, but I'm going to hark back to a story. So there's Flexport. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're really cool company. They do like modern technology for shipping, and they were sued for breaking a contract. But I read how they set that contract. So Flexport hired a bigwig, and he was in Miami, he was in Florida, and the contractor came down and took him to a really fancy restaurant, and they agreed on terms right there. And it was like, Miami's got some great restaurants. People don't think it was a restaurant city. It really is. And, that was probably $1,000-something dinner. And that closed the deal. Another example is Salesforce. So at least in New York, I don't know about nationwide, the stipend for taking someone out is $250 per person, right? In New York, that's still pretty good in New York. But like, how is there anything better than like, hey, Joseph, like if I was in town, I could spend 250 on us to, would I get to know you better, right? Like,
100%, yeah.
yeah. And I think we're starting to see that more because there's a lot of events going on, to build that relationship. But there's ways that you can do that. So I buy a lot of like gifts out of my own pocket because I like people, right? And it's authentic. So a friend, Seamless AI, they're great data. My friend JP there, Jonathan, is a fantastic guy. I really like the guy. He's not a prospect. Maybe we'll work together in the future, but I bought him a qualified captain hat because he moved in Florida. It's an ugly hat, but I'm like, man, I love this guy. I got to get it for him. And, there's another, that goes a long way to just extending that authenticity from a digital realm. And even like you, man, like I saw the hat, like I automatically liked you. I saw the hat, and I'm told me you do.
I love it.
House, was it homesteading? Is that correct?
Yeah,
term?
Yeah, homesteading projects. A lot of cutting things up with a chainsaw stuff for videos.
I mean, I could hear about that for hours, man. Like that is so cool, but that really extends that authenticity and can help bridge that, right? So sales is what you do. What we do is really hard right now. I don't care if you're a consultant, maybe not if you're a FANG, tech company, but everybody else. So we're seeing a reliance on fundamentals come back, right? So execute at every level, work with marketing, all this stuff. And we're seeing this come back too. You can't really productize a lot of sales. So, try to be yourself, be confident in yourself. If you're not confident in yourself, let them know you're not confident in yourself. People get that, and try to extend that relationship past, a transactional sale.
Well, because you also don't know, decision makers move, right? So by the time you get through a deal, especially if you have a long sales cycle, that person who's your main point of contact might leave. So I mean, we could derail on that, so we don't have to go super far into that. But that person could leave, and so for one, you want to be building those deep relationships with people so that they,
Yes.
I mean, with multiple people in the team, so the deal doesn't die. But also, if you're building a relationship with somebody and it's gone beyond the transaction, when they move wherever they're going, they're really likely to try to bring you in. And if they are new into the position, they're actually positioned a lot of times really well to bring something new in and kind of come with fresh ideas and and all of that. So it could be great. Great to build those relationships.
I've posted that, hey, if you have a sales cycle that's over 6 months, you will lose a key stakeholder, and typically it's somebody on your side. It's not the guy the person that didn't want you. So absolutely, man. And very tactfully prospect your stakeholder, the person against you, the person for you, and try to build that. Yeah, you nailed it. Especially big consulting clients, like they're gonna, someone's gonna get plucked from that organization, and they might take you, but that's gonna take time. You steal that you spent half a year on. So great point, man. Yeah.
So let's keep these last two questions pretty tight because we're at 15 minutes right now, and but I love some of these things you were sharing about. So the first one is, give me just like 2 or 3 points that somebody could take away who's listening to this episode to start taking a more all-bound approach.
Yeah. First point is stay up to date on your market. So learn as much as you can. There's a ton of free resources, a ton of thought leaders. Right now, I'm selling to sales leaders. I'm a salesperson, but when I sold to marketers, I was on every industry newsletter, a marketer in security, following all the thought leaders. AI is such a great resource now, Perplexity AI, and ChatGPT is really good at discovery. The second one is, if you're uncomfortable with a channel, try it. Just do it. Just do it, because your competition is using that channel, and you can't. Let's say, for example, your buyer, senior director at, pick on John Deere again. He listens to every voicemail. Doesn't read emails. His secretary does it. He's never on LinkedIn. He goes to one event a year, and everybody meets with them. But he listens to his voicemails, right? If your competition's calling and leaving a voicemail, you're at a disadvantage. The third, and no one's going to want to hear this, is you have to be neurotic. So we talked about user gems. I love user gems. This is not a knock to them, but I would notice job changes 2 months before user gems. I went to our head of RevOps, brilliant guy. This was at Metadata. Sam's brilliant. He's like, Dee, that's bringing most of our revenue, is the job change tracking and new people and people, customers. And I'm like, oh, what is our sales team doing that they're taking 2 months to find that out? You need that, so I'm not trying to plug Modigi. We're going to do something there soon, but you have to be neurotic and get a good therapist and good hobbies to make up for that. Have a good family. But yeah,
that's hilarious. So if you're going to really succeed in Allbound, you've got to be slightly, if not really, obsessive about making the sale.
Not just making a sale, but knowing where the opportunity is, understanding your customer, right? Like you do that. We talked about this before. Your customer, and that's something that you can't be lazy on, no matter where you are in your career or how ahead of plan you are. So yeah.
So with that, let's roll into what's the wildest thing that's ever happened to you in your sales career?
So we talked about this. I tons of dumb things, taking calls on the Excella, Zooms on the Excella. I was engaged, cut through my engagement week, to take a call. What else? I told you I was on a yacht and I took a call and had Starlink. It didn't work well. But what really sticks out is I was at RSA conference, huge security conference, 15,000. Everybody caught COVID this year, this 2021. And I was starting to get sick, and I took a call from my phone. And I think the moral of the story is, look, we need to be comfortable with, we're on show. We need to be comfortable with this, right? What we're doing as much as we can. So next time, hey, if the Wi-Fi is not going to be good, if I have so many stories about the Wi-Fi being bad, if you're going to be like physically uncomfortable, don't do it. That's like if kids are running in. I don't know if you have children. That's kind of different. People love kids. Like I've been on calls with teenagers. I had my cleaning lady come in, like walk in one time, but I could still maintain my sphere. So yeah, but it's tough, right? It's a balance. Try to balance, lean it towards, hey, be in your comfortable spot with the prospecting, et cetera, not with the meetings, et cetera.
So just making sure that you're in a place, when you go to take a call, make sure you're in a place that you're going to be successful at it, and it's not going to be so distracting that you end up losing the opportunity over something stupid.
Yes, you don't have a runny nose. You're not on your phone. The parking attendant isn't knocking on your window, making sure you're not a thief or something.
Yeah, Dee, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Really appreciate it. You had some really great insights to share. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Joseph, thank you. You're stuck with me. You've got a friend for a long time, but I look forward to seeing more and more of these.